Avery, and I am back for my first book talk on this channel. I am so excited. I didn't think I was going to be doing a book talk right out the gate, but after I finished this book yesterday, I was like, no, I've got too many feelings about it. I need to talk about it. So today, I'm going to be discussing with you all The Dazzling Heights by Katherine McGee. This is the sequel to The 1000th Floor. I definitely recommend you need to pick that book up before you even consider reading this, and if you would like for me to do a book talk about The 1000th Floor, let me know in the comments below and I will definitely get on that. I did not know that they were making a sequel to The 1000th Floor because I read it a year ago and absolutely loved it. And so it was a very pleasant surprise to walk into Barnes & Noble and see this bad boy sitting on the shelf. I grabbed it and never let it go. Also, I just want to make a very quick disclaimer. I have somehow come down with a cold that is ruining my life, so if my voice starts cracking or I sound like I'm dying, you know. So, thank you for bearing with me. If you're not familiar with the world of The 1000th Floor, I will happily recap for you. The book takes place in 2118 Manhattan, where society has completely advanced. We have all kinds of new technology, and if you live in an urban area like Manhattan, you pretty much live in one of these super towers, which is a very tall skyscraper. But Manhattan has 1,000 floors, and the higher up you are in the tower, the more wealthy, the more powerful and influential your family is. The book follows 5 main characters: Avery, Leto, Watt, Rylan, and Calliope, and how they deal with the aftermath of the first book. In the last book, some things went down, and Avery, Watt, Lita, and Rylan are all coping, trying to get their lives back together. Calliope is the new girl in town, and everyone's kind of wondering what she's up to, why she's even in New York. And someone is supposedly watching them and knows all about what happened. If you like the Gossip Girl series or anything remotely in that world, you would definitely enjoy these books, 100%. I've never seen Gossip Girl or read Gossip Girl, and I ate these books up. I could finish both of them in one sitting. This book was definitely a lot darker than the first book, in my opinion, because what happened at the end of The 1000th Floor was so game-changing for all of these characters. All of their secrets kind of came out. There's a lot of blackmail involved, and you see them as they try to cope with all their emotions and try to keep a straight face. It's very fun. These characters suck at dealing with their emotions in a normal way, but I guess that's what happens when you live in the future and you're rich. I definitely like The 1000th Floor better than The Dazzling Heights, 100%, but this is one of those things where if you ever go and see a movie and after the credits roll, you just want to know what happens to all the characters like 5 minutes later after the movie has ended, The Dazzling Heights is pretty much the epitome of that. The first half of the book moves so slowly for me. Something about it didn't click the way that it did with The 1000th Floor, and that has nothing to do with Katherine McGee because I absolutely think she's a genius. The world that she has crafted for these characters to live in is dazzling, no pun intended, I don't think, and it's kind of a shame that these books are so character plot driven instead of just plot driven, but I don't know, it just moved really slow compared to the last book. I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with this book. The first book, in my opinion, was absolutely glorious. It was full of drama and getting to know this world and these characters, but this book was not what I was expecting. You know those books where you look at the flap and you go by that alone? This book is one of those that's kind of misleading. This is now the part of the video where things are gonna get a little bit spoilery. If you're not interested in being spoiled, then I will see you next time. But if you don't mind, or you want to hear more about it before you know what you're getting yourself into, after the dance break, we will begin, so stay tuned. Alright, hello friends who don't mind being spoiled. God, these characters are honestly some of the most irritating people I've ever dealt with. So in the first book, we are exposed to the Avery Atlas romance, which I could make a whole video on because it annoys me, it frustrates me, and honestly, it's pointless. Forbidden romance is a trope that needs to just die already because that trope being in existence leads to these authors being like, okay, I've got it. Incest. Like, No, I don't want to read that. That takes away so many quality points from a book. When I see that an author has written in incest, like, honestly, if that is the only thing you can think of to create some real juicy drama in your books, then you need to go back to the drawing board, because it's gross and disgusting. It doesn't matter if they're adopted siblings and they're not biological, like, no, I don't want to read that. There is nothing romantic or sexy about dating your adopted brother. There's nothing in this world that would ever make that to me. I would pick up a book and be like, you know what, this is a quality storyline. Like, the only reason I stuck with it through this book is because I needed to know what was gonna happen, because I was enticed by the blackmail part of the plot that I didn't really get. So, not to mention that it just completely diminishes from Avery's character. Like, I liked Avery pretty well in the first book. I didn't have any problems with her, but in this book, I just wanted to wring her neck. She was so irritating, and Atlas is probably the most pointless character in the whole book. To me, he is very two-dimensional. I don't like him. He's like that guy in high school that all the girls like just because he's attractive. They don't care about his substance. He may not have any. In Atlas's case, he doesn't have any, but they only like him because he's cute. That's Atlas to me. Atlas has this one line in the book. I'm not gonna look for it and find it, but he basically says something that sums up the whole Avery-Atlas romance. And it basically just says, you just want me because I'm forbidden. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Like, I know that for some of you, that within itself is just a hard no. And if it is, then I definitely would recommend just passing on these books altogether. Honestly, if I had known that the Avery-Atlas romance was going to just continue to drag on in these books, I probably would have not even picked them up in the first place. But I did, and I think it is important that you know that going into these books. I wish I had had the warning when I picked up The 1000th Floor a year ago, so there you go. You're welcome. To me, Avery and Cord were hella cute. They were such a bro TP, but I was like, you know, I could totally see them being together, because I mean, they were cute. They were so cute. When she kissed him at the end of the book, I was like, ooh, girl. And that leads me into another character that kind of bothered me, Rylan. In the last book, she was pining over Cord, and then in this book, she's just pining over Cord once again. And then Shane, the director of one of her classes, hits on her. Rylan is one of the characters that kind of annoys me a lot, just because her storylines always have to do with the boy. I loved reading about her storyline when she was going off to LA and being a director's assistant and like just exploring herself. Like, I like that part of Rylan. What I don't like is focusing solely on her like romantic life. And of course, what's the only thing that she has running storyline-wise throughout these books? Romance. I felt the loss of my beautiful daughter, Iris Godradson, in the Dazzling Heights. I did. I just wanted her back. And when Avery goes to her grave and she hallucinates Iris there, I was like, that was like the most fulfilling part of the book for me. That was when it started picking up. Because I miss her so much. She was such a quality character. And what does Catherine McGee do? Kill her off. To me, her and Lita were probably the most dynamic, interesting characters. They're probably my favorites. And she killed one of them off, and then she almost killed off Lita. And the whole time I was reading that, I was like, I swear to God, Catherine, if you kill her off, I'm going to die. Speaking of Lita, I love watching how Lita deals with her grief in this. She kind of annoyed me for the first half of the book because she was so obsessed with blackmailing everybody to make sure that they didn't say anything about her pushing Iris off the roof, because she was so convinced that Iris was sleeping with her dad. Lita can be kind of dumb. She's so dramatic. She just jumps to conclusions way too quickly, and I'm like, girl, if you would stop for 5 seconds and just put 2 and 2 together and not get 14, we would be in a better place. But of course, she doesn't. It makes for good drama. Her romance with Watt was kind of weird. I didn't see that coming at all. It was really cute. I thought her and Watt were cute at the end when he goes to save her at the beach before she almost dies. That's always fun. Watt is another one of those characters that I'm just kind of like, you'd be so much more interesting if you didn't focus on one thing. Bryce Anderton, the only character who has his wits about him and knows what is up, because last book he called Rylan out on her crap stealing the drugs for her role, and I didn't like him then, but I loved him in this book, calling Calliope on her crap. I loved it. Calliope was a whirlwind of a character. I really liked her backstory. I wanted to see a little bit more into her head than I did. She just had so much potential as a character, and Homegirl was not messing around. I don't understand why no one was on this girl other than Bryce Anderton from the beginning. Like, it took them 300 pages to realize, okay, this girl is up to something. Maybe we need to figure out what's going on. Like, it took 300 pages for them to finally be like, okay, she's shady, we should figure out what's going on. Like, these characters are just a mess. They're teenagers in a futuristic world, and of course, they're even bigger messes than today's teenagers. Like, who would have guessed? But honestly, I was convinced the whole time I was reading this book that Calliope was the one who was spying on them, because it introduces Calliope in the flap. So obviously, you know, you put new girl plus someone spying on the gang that watched Iris fall to her death last book. That's what my mind concluded. And of course, it wasn't. Finding out who was blackmailing them the whole time, Marielle. Like, I was completely underwhelmed by that, because the first chapter in the book has Marielle, and you're like, oh, okay, we're seeing more from her and what happened after Iris died. And I was like, okay, I can get down with this. And I really thought that that's who Calliope was. I thought that Calliope was Marielle. I really did. And then you just find out that Calliope and Marielle are two totally different people, and that Marielle has been spying on them for the whole duration of the book. But you don't know that because it's never discussed. And I don't know, it was such an underwhelming reveal. Catherine Gee, I was expecting more from you. It goes to reflect the whole barrier gaze trope, which I'm not gonna talk too much on because we could just spiral down that rabbit hole forever, but I was completely underwhelmed. Having her come out of nowhere at the Dubai party and drugging Lita and having her confess about what happened to Iris that night and then leaving her for dead once she found out, it came out of left field. And it would have made a lot more sense if there were more Marielle chapters in the book, if there was more like insight onto what Marielle was going through, if Marielle had been Calliope, which was what I wanted, but I didn't get that. So, and then her mysterious death at the end, I was like, okay, I can't wait to see how this goes. I am interested to seeing how that plays out into the third book, if there is a third book. And then the characters all in that hotel room plotting to kill her. I was like, you guys are morons. Like, did you not learn anything from the last book when Iris fell off the top of the tower? Like, these characters are all idiots. I was just reading this book the whole time and I was like, every single one of you does not have an ounce of common sense. You have Avery over here dating her adopted brother. You have Rylan, who keeps getting into these situations with the most irritating boys ever. You have Lita, who, bless her soul, I love her. I'll give her a free pass, but to be fair, she's just sitting here blackmailing people viciously and ruthlessly. Like, girl, find your chill. Then you have Watt. You would think that having a computer that ran at that capacity, he would have like the tiniest ounce of common sense, but no, he doesn't. I know that the brain is not fully developed until like 20, but come on. Hopefully, if there is a third book, it's gonna be even more drama-filled because they're gonna touch on the death of Marielle. They're going to look into these murderous kids. Personally, I enjoyed them very, very much. They're just drama reads. Like, if you just want something to consume all in one sitting, you don't want something with much thought involved, I would definitely pick these books up. They're great for that. But if you want something that's very thought-provoking, this probably is the one to steer clear from. The reason I picked up The 1,000th Floor in the first place was because it had such interesting premise. The setting was just glorious in my opinion, because I'm a sucker for anything set in the future that involves teenagers getting into trouble. If you want something to fill the place of watching reality TV or a teen soap opera, here you go. That's all I have for you today. Leave a comment below if you enjoyed this type of video, if you want to see something different, if you're going to pick up The Dazzling Heights in the 1,000th Floor. I have all my links for social media down below. I love you guys. Bye.